Happy Tuesday, everybody. You energized, ready for all the holidays that are about to hit? I feel like Q4, right? Yeah, we should be celebrating family time, hangout time, chill time, clients not blowing up your phone time, all coming, all right? I feel like there's a little sliver of time. It's like right after Christmas and right up till New Year where like nobody calls you. It's like the perfect time on earth. And then January 1 hits and then all of craziness breaks loose, right? How many of you were at the business planning summit we did last year? Good handful of you. This is gonna be a little bit different than we did it last year. And what I want you to ultimately walk out with is kind of a playbook for next year. Some of you, this might feel a little overwhelming if you're new to the industry. And for those who have been in it a while, it's gonna be refreshing to have kind of a game plan going into the last month of the year. And ultimately, what I want is for you to be able to get momentum before we even hit January 1. Andrew, if you can jump to the Gamma slides. Part of this as well, and actually, if you'll open up the email I sent that has the Notion dashboard, actually, you have it right here on the far left. So in a moment, I will share a QR code that you'll be able to scan. A lot of the resources, the printouts, the calculators, all those things we're going to go through today are going to be on this one document. Okay, so you'll be able to find it afterwards. So just go ahead and scan that. You'll be able to open it up right on your phone and you'll have access to all these resources we're going to go through. Okay. How many of you, raise your hand, have your computer with you today? Cool. I recommend using that if you've got it in your available, pull that out. If you don't, that's okay. We've printed out documents so you can go through this on paper and then you can come back and do this on your computer later. You can do it on your phone. It's just not totally optimized for that. Some of the spreadsheets we're going to go through. But yes, if you have your computer, feel free to pull that out and we'll see if the internet crashes with all this on it. All right. Cool. We can jump to the slides. I believe nope, it's still in the email. And there's a separate email. There's the first one right there, the Business Planning Summit. Oh. And there's a second link right at the bottom. Yep. Awesome, thank you. Cool, so this is that resource page. So you can go ahead and scan that and get access. I would recommend saving that. We'll dump on some additional resources over the coming weeks, but this will give you everything we're going to go through today, including all the printouts that we're going to hand out as well. So if you want to go back and redo this process, you're able to. Before we jump into this, raise your hand if you're at the goal setting retreat with us last week. Okay, ooh, a good chunk of people, awesome. I want to, before we jump into the business side, I want to get some clarity around what was important to you about that experience, or any clarity you got around the business or career side of your goals. We went through obviously 7 different areas of life, but I want to get very purposeful just on highlighting your career goals. So what came through for you during that experience, or what came through clarity-wise around your career goals for 2026, if you're at the the goal-setting retreat that we did? I'm going to just cherry pick on a few people that I know are there that are avoiding eye contact. Jared, how about you?
What clarity did I gain? Well, I don't know anything specifically, but just having that time set apart to like shut out the whole world and think ahead was super valuable for me. As far as career goes, it was valuable to me because I I get so focused in on the things that need to happen like today and this week
Mhm.
that I don't think about how I'm going to plan for next year. And so just having that venue to think ahead was the most valuable thing
Awesome.
I got out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, we are so busy running in the business day to day, right? That it takes some discipline to actually put time on the calendar to like think about what do we want the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Angie, you've been to it multiple times. Why'd you come back to the retreat?
One, because I needed the space for it. So I'll do a retreat for my team. But if I didn't take the time in that space, it wouldn't happen. Pieces of the clarity is you guys worked a lot more with future self. And that was new. And I think that was really, really valuable.
Mm.
So we just said here that sometimes the numbers is always really hard for me, that I will base most of my life and my business off of how do I want to feel for this to go. And that then logistically the things will come. So the numbers are always challenging.
Mm. How many of you love spreadsheets? Like 4 of you. Johnny, of course, he's the psychopath with like loving spreadsheets. No, the reality is too, like, as you're going through this experience, some of these exercises that we're going to go through today, you're going to love it. And some of you are going to hate them because they're maybe not your natural personality style, and that's fine. Yes, the logistics of it all. But what I'll tell you is that today in this conversation, I wanted to treat you like the CEO of your business. That's what you are, right? All of you are independent contractors. You run your own business. And so ultimately what I want you to walk out of this with is a playbook to how to successfully run your business in 2026. So these are some of the outcomes that we're going to go for today. Number one is just clarity. Like, what do you want? And this is probably one of the most valuable parts of this process that we're going to go through is you knowing with definite purpose, what is the actual target? What am I aiming for? Before we can actually do the planning process, right? Plan out your business, we have to know what it is that you want, why it's important to you. And then we're going to build a strategic plan. And there's a very simple process that we're going to go through that you can just use as a weekly resource to map out what your strategic game plan is going to be each week. And then, of course, making sure that we have some sort of system, some sort of cadence of a system that can help us to hit those goals more consistently. One thing that I would recommend is how many of you spend time reflecting on your past? So actually taking time to just like look back and say like, how did I do? Or how's life? Let me check the temperature of my health or my wealth, my career, right? This is a good strategy to deploy just for your business, is to go back and reflect. Look at your financial metrics, look at your production numbers, look at your team structure, and just ask, were you happy with those different categories? So we're not going to do this specific process today, but I would recommend just scheduling some time to reflect. There's this saying, has anybody heard the saying that success leaves clues? Right? The opposite's also true. The lack of success also leaves clues. So if you aren't hitting a target in your business that you're wanting to hit, we need to look back and say, well, why was that? What caused that? Okay. And or you did hit your targets this year, and what we need to do is write down the ingredients to your success so that it's easier to replicate next year, right? It's easier to bake a cake from an actual recipe than from just like winging it, right? And that's where when you start documenting your success or you start documenting some of the failures or the roadblocks that you ran into, it's a lot easier to work through those in the year forward, okay? So learn from yourself through that 2025 year review process. This idea, one of the challenges that we have as entrepreneurs is this, and I'm speaking just to some of you in the room, not all of you, okay? Some of you might have achieved great success in your business in the past, and maybe you're just feeling like you're kind of coasting on that success, right? Your systems kind of cause the same amount of business to happen year in and year out, regardless of what happens in the industry. And you kind of know deep down that you actually want to grow. You want to be able to achieve new accomplishments in your business. And so this is where the idea of just saying things are good enough, right? In my business, in my life, and kind of just settling is one of the biggest challenges, the enemy of excellence, we call it. So this saying that good enough is the subtle thief of progress. It satisfies the immediate but starves the future, quietly robbing us of the pursuit of our potential. And so we have to just get clear about, well, what is this idea that will kind of have you hold in your mind today of like, what's my Mount Everest? Like, what is the achievement that I want to accomplish that I'm going to be so satisfied with in the future, right? That I'm going to look back at and say, I'm glad that I did that, right? Even though it was hard. And with big goals come big plans, right? We have to have a good strategy. And the challenge that I see most often is that people will set big goals, but they won't have a really defined game plan. Like, what's the actual strategy? And so today you're going to walk out with a playbook for this of how do we actually make sure that our plans actually match the targets that we've set, right? All of these are just kind of mental philosophies before we get into some of the strategic stuff. But I just want you to think through when it comes to having big goals, the one thing out of anything, for those who are at the retreat, what is the end of the goal setting process that we have you write down on your one pager? You write your goal and then you write 3 things. Your habits. Why? Why do you need supporting habits for whatever target it is that you're trying to accomplish? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jim Rohn, he says the saying, he says, earn $1 million or set a goal for $1 million, not for the money, but for the person that it requires you to become in the pursuit of that target, right? And you can say that for whatever your financial goal is. If it's 50,000, if it's 150,000, if it's 200,000, likely what you have to say is, well, in order for me to break through to a new income level, I have to become a new version of me, right? And so the habits is really the key to all of this, is saying whatever the target is, what are the new supporting habits that are going to help me to get there, that are going to help me to close the gap? Or another way to ask the question is, somebody who's already earned that amount of money, what type of habits do they possess? And it will kind of give you some clues, right, into where to focus. So this is just an idea where if you have $2.5 million habits, that is going to be the box that you live in. If you develop $50 million habits, that's the box that you're going to live in. And so it all comes down to the supporting habits. The quality of your habits determine the quality of your life. So we simply just have to upgrade those. One question to think about in your business is, what type of infrastructure, or in other terms, systems, are you building? Okay. The systems actually determine the longevity of your business, and they determine the sustainability. So just think through this with me for a second. If I am just wanting to kind of wing it, and my goal is to have very low accountability in the process, and have no systems, it's almost like I'm kind of going on the dirt road. Like whatever, Mother Nature provided for me, like that's the road I'm going to take. It's going to be a little bumpy. It's not going to be fun. I might walk down that path or ride a horse down that path. Whereas if we look at today's kind of modern infrastructure, right, we see massive cities. How many of you walked to work today? One of you, okay, who lives like 2 blocks away. Like most of us benefit from all of the systems that operate in our society, right? Like how many of you went and hunted for your own food for this winter and you're stocking up? I have a few hunters in the room, right? Like the reality is we all benefit from a system of having grocery stores so we can go get food on demand, right? Or restaurants. I can eat like in the next 30 minutes if I'm hungry, right? So we don't realize the power of infrastructure and systems until we really start to just be aware of like all the systems that currently provide our standard of living, right? And then we dig into our business and say, well, what systems do I currently have? And are they sufficient for where I'm really trying to go, right? Systems provide 2 things. It provides more time back in your business, in your life, and then it also provides scale. You can support or serve more clients depending on the quality of your systems.
Mind space too.
Say that again.
Mind space,
Mind space. Tell me more about that.
because you don't have to think about what's next.
So I think the biggest value of the system is you don't have to think about what's next. So it gives you mind space back. So in this business, when everything is noisy and crazy and you're aching for that mind space, it's the system that will bring you your mind space back. It'll bring you the quiet you're looking for.
Yep. Yeah. Life has become noisy, just a little bit, right? Absolutely. Systems allow for freedom, really, right? Peace of mind, freedom, flexibility. So just think through that as we're going through this. We're going to help you install some systems today that are from the MREA, right? The 4 models. And it just, when you lean into the systems, it just provides so much more freedom on the other side. This is another part of this process, why we're going to go through this first activity of getting very intentional around our financial goal, our target, and making sure that we have a written down goal for next year is because of this psychology. So the Harvard Goal Study, who's seen this data? Okay. So Harvard did the study on individuals who went through Harvard and it wasn't Harvard that did the study. It was a study on Harvard graduates. And what they found was 84% of those graduates did not set a goal. Okay. They didn't even have a goal going out of college. All their goal was like, let me get a job. But as far as like how much income I want, what my lifestyle goals are, all of those different things, they didn't have a defined goal. There were 13% of the participants who had goals, but they did not commit to them on paper. So they generally knew the direction that they wanted to go in. And then the top 3% had clear written goals and plans to accomplish them. So they not only had the goal, they had them written down, and then they had defined plans. Okay. And here's the results. The 13% in the middle earned twice as much as the bottom 84%, just by having some sort of direction in mind. And then the top 3% of individuals who had a clear goal, but also written down plan, earned 10 times as much as the other 97% combined. Okay. That's why we go through this process. It's so important to not only know what we're aiming for, but then also what's the strategy we're going to deploy to get there. So this is where we're going to start. You all have a little sheet in front of you. Can I see that one there? Thank you. That says the Life by Design calculator. Okay. So we're going to go through this exercise. I'll explain a little bit more after this video, but this is Gary Keller talking about how do you actually know when you have enough money? Now he's talking in the grand scheme of things from an investment net worth perspective, but it also relates and translates directly to each year. How do you decide what your financial goal should be? And so we're going to watch this video and then we'll dive into this exercise.
So I'm going to put forth a premise here for you, and that is the true purpose of financial wealth. The true purpose of financial wealth, in my mind, now remember, breathe, this is me talking about my views, is to finance the material foundation necessary for you to achieve your personal mission for your life. Did you hear that? What I believe the purpose of financial wealth is I want enough money to finance the material foundation necessary for me to achieve my mission in life. So if I don't have a mission, how will I ever be rich? Do you hear the catch? By my definition, I can only be rich if I have enough money to finance my mission without having to work. See, if I have a mission in life and I have enough money coming in that allows me to do that without having to work, I'm rich. So if your mission only takes you $40,000 a year of income to live off of to finance your mission, are you rich by my definition? Yes, you are. And the reason I share that with you is I want to get you away from thinking that rich has a dollar amount attached to it that is universal. Because that's baloney. It does not have that at all. That is not what rich is. Rich is when you have a purpose in your life and you have the ability to finance that purpose without having to work if you don't want to. Happiness happens on the way to fulfillment. And that's the research. That's not me talking. Happiness happens on the way to fulfillment. And what that means is that if you say, I'm going to be happy when I have a new car, you will never be happy, because the second you have that car, it all wears off. Now you need another goal to be happy. So the happy people, and again, this isn't me talking, this is the research. The research says that you have to have a mission for your life. When you have a mission for your life, that basically is unachievable, in the sense of, if you're going to save the whales, you'll be saving them your whole life. If you're going to keep people out of poverty, you're going to be keeping them out your whole life. You won't reach a day where there isn't a person who needs help, or there's not a whale that needs saving. Do you hear that? It's kind of like the never-ending goal. Do you hear that? And it's not a game. The point is that your life's goal or mission is so big that it takes an entire lifetime to play in it. Now, that's what they say, happiness happens on the way to fulfillment. Fulfilling that mission is a lifetime goal, thus you're always happy.
What'd you catch from that?
I love that he said that happiness is in the journey. I think sometimes we get caught up in that, oh, if I can get this closing, or oh, if I can get this house, or oh, if I can get this next shiny object, then I'll be happy. But I love the idea and thought that it's through our journey and who we're becoming and fulfilling our goals.
Yeah, and I think there's a spot on, Cam, and I think it's part of like we have to get clear about what does cause our happiness, right? And then what is our business, like what's the purpose of our business? He was talking more about the wealth dynamic, right? Which is like money is a tool to achieve whatever our personal goal is, right? And when it comes to our business, like what's the purpose of business? Gary Keller also talks about this. What's the purpose of a business? Let's say that. To be profitable, right? The component of that I would say is important to also kind of earmark is the purpose of your business is to fund whatever lifestyle you want to live, right? So we first have to get clear about what is the actual cost of my desired lifestyle? Like what's the actual target? I sit down with a lot of people getting into the space, into the real estate space. And some of you were in this seat before. Okay, think back to when you got into the industry. Some of you might have been 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. What do you think is the most common goal or financial target that people set getting into real estate? What was it? 100,000. Why? Why that number? What's up with six figures? 6, 7. Right? They have this in their mind like it's a definition for success or something. Like it's a vague number though. Status, right? The reality is like it's such a vague number. If I walked in the door and somebody asked, if you heard a conversation of two people talking and somebody said, well, what's your goal for the year? And you heard the person say $123,750. What would you think in your mind? Without knowing anything else about that conversation.
There's something behind it.
You already know in your mind there's a purpose behind that number. Isn't that interesting? So how do you think people typically set their financial goals for their business each year? Yeah. Whatever sounds good, or just whatever's a little bit better than I did last year, right, is also another common way that they set targets. So what we're going to do for this 10-minute process is go through a very intentional process of goal setting. This number is what ends up deciding the rest of your business plan. So that's why it's important for us to spend some time here. If we play this strategy, I call it spending money in advance. Meaning that what you want to actually do is say a year from now, how do I want to have spent my funds that I earned, right? And dig into 3 different categories. Your personal life, so what are those costs or expenses that you need to live, survive, right? Food on the table and paying for the home that you want to live in. And you actually want to think about this in the terms of ideal goal, not current. right? So if you do want to upgrade your home or you want to purchase a new car, you want to bake in the actual cost in the future, not today's cost, right? So if your car payment's $500 now and you know a new car is going to be 900, you want to go with the number of 900, right? Is the target. So you've got personal expenses. You then have business expenses. How much do I want to invest into my business to get the return that I'm hoping for, right? So what am I going to put into lead generation, marketing, support, leverage, these different areas? And then the third category is your life by design. So like if I really had additional funds to focus on just lifestyle improvements, what are those things I would want to spend money on? Maybe it's your investment goals. It's your vacation fund. Maybe it's your child college fund or your retirement fund. All of those different things that require excess capital beyond your business and your personal life. Does that make sense? So with this, you have two different options. One, you can jump onto the Notion board that we shared in the beginning, and you can look for this bottom right-hand side. It says Life by Design, and there's a calculator on here. When you click that, you'll be forced to make a copy. So you might want to send it from your phone if you scanned it to your computer. Go ahead and send that Notion link to your computer. This sheet will pop up. If you don't have your computer or iPad or something like that to work on, then you have this sheet in front of you. There actually should be 3 sheets total. Actually, yeah, perfect. Yeah, this one. So there should be 3 sheets. So there should be numbers 1 through 6. 1 through 6. And it starts with getting clear about your personal expenses, then your business expenses on the back. That's how the sheets start. So we're going to throw some music on. What you're going to do is just go through on the calculator. You're going to just adjust these numbers. It will automatically add up the totals for you. So I'll just show you how this works. If I were to go through and adjust any of these, and let's say that right now my house payment is $1,300 and I'm going to change and get a new house. What's a new house cost today? What's the average mortgage cost? Say $3,300. Okay. So if I put 3,300 in here, it's going to change this, how much I need at the grand total for the year. So you're going to do this for every item. You can also, if you're on the spreadsheet, you can change these categories. So you don't have to stick with these. You can change them as you'd like. You're then going to do your business expenses. And lastly, your Life by Design expenses. This one, for the Life by Design, you don't need to do the monthly. It doesn't do anything on the calculations. It's more of just overall for the year. How much do you want to put into this area of your world? For example, if you're like, I want to buy rental property, well, how much do you want as the down payment? In this case, let's say it's 100,000. You'd put that there. What it's going to do is calculate for you. Let me zoom over here. So one thing that you're going to do a little step further is add in your average compensation per closing. So if you have a rough ballpark on that, throw that number in there. Or you can use the placeholder that's there already. And it's going to self-calculate for you how many transactions you need to pay for your personal life, how many you need for your Life by Design, and then as a grand total if you add those numbers up together. Does that make sense? So the calculator's already set up. All you have to do is enter in the numbers. If you're doing the spreadsheet, you've got to do something called math. So you've got to pull out your calculator and self-do the math. All right, so we're going to throw some music on. A few of us will walk around. If you have any questions or need some help with this, let us know. But this is what's going to go into the first model in the MREA, which is called the economic model. We need to know this target number, okay? So we'll give you 10 minutes.
I don't care. I wanna take you home.
Does anybody need help? Got about 3 more minutes left.
Now, somebody likes to be in that place. You trying to get out. Try and read my lyrics off this paper before I play them. But don't take the sting up these words before I say them. Cause ain't no way I'm gonna let you stop me from causing man. Say I'm gonna do something, but do. If the game what you say, I'm doing it to me. Fuck the world, be. Can't stop the thing that me. I'm about right here.
All right. So how many of you came up with a number that was $100,000? This is a trick. What did you guys come up with? Oh, 833. It's an odd number. See, this process is interesting. What happens if our reality of what we need to attain only costs us $98,833, but we're aiming for 400 grand that year? Are we going to overwork compared to what's actually needed? Quite likely, right? So that's why this process is important, is we have to actually, we often think that the lifestyle we want is going to cost so much more than it really does. And so we just have to get clear about what's the target first, and then we can reverse engineer the math, which is what we're going to do next, and say, well, how many units would that require? This this statement that the quality of your questions determine the quality of your life. Right? So what we ask ourselves matters. These are two good questions to just have in our mind when we're going through this goal setting and business planning process, which is, what do I want? And why do I want it? Right? Again, a lot of times we will kind of adopt certain goals because we've seen other people accomplish something, but we have to actually get clear about what's important to us. And then the step that's not on here that we should ask, the third question, is what's the price? What's the price? What is it going to cost? So every target that you set actually has a price that has to be paid. And I want you to think of it this way. How many of you have gone into a store that you like, you see a pair of pants or a shirt or some shoes that you're like, oh, I want those. And then you go and flip over the price tag and you're like, I want those, but not that much. Right? So we already do this naturally, but yet we failed to do it with our goals of saying, well, what would the price be for me to go ahead and earn 200 grand? Like, there's a cost of activities that I have to pay to get to that end goal, right? Or if I wanted to earn $1 million a year, what's the cost? What do I have to pay to get to that level? And that's the one missing piece that most people don't do, is they don't sit down and say, well, what would be the cost? And that's what we're going to take you through. In the MREA, what do we call this? It's a specific model, the economic model, right? The economic model actually tells us what the price is, how many contacts we have to make, how many homes we have to sell to achieve a certain financial outcome, right? So I'm going to introduce you to something that may not work, okay? Because I built it with an AI tool, and we're going to see if there's any bugs. So if there is, I'm sorry. But we'll just have to do it by hand if the tool doesn't work. And if the tool does work, you're going to appreciate it because it's very helpful to just get a little snapshot. But before we go into the actual economic model in reverse engineering these numbers, I want to ask the question, why do people not hit a certain financial target? Like, how many of you were earning less than $10 an hour at your first job? Okay, this is aging some people, right? Some of you were born into $12 an hour minimum wage, right? So my first job was McDonald's when I was, some of you heard the story, 15 and a half. They fired me as soon as they found out I wasn't actually 16. I lied on my application to get a job. They fired me and then they hired me back the day after I turned 16. And you know, there's a book I've referenced, is called The Gap and the Gain, which is, we don't realize, like, oftentimes we're looking for, like, I want to grow my income to a certain level, and we forget about how far we've actually come in that income growth journey, right? Like, you are making, if you actually do the math, probably 500% to 1,000% more than you were in your first job. So the question is, can you not do that again? Can you not just replicate that entire cycle that you've already gone through? Right? Not going to live long enough. But the question I want to ask is, why do people, when they set new targets, why do they not hit those financial targets? What could be some reasons?
Fail.
Failed to plan, don't have the habits, not a big enough why. Spencer?
Yes, I'm okay as is.
Yeah.
Like I'm surviving.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that coasting mentality, right? I'm gonna play a video with Ed Milet, and I think this is spot on just like how our, let's call it your internal thermostat, both your normal income level that you earn each year, but also your net worth, both have a thermostat tied to them. And so too often we don't reprogram that thermostat to a different temperature. So the temperature in this room, for example, self-regulates back to whatever we programmed it for. And so we have to have that kind of same perspective where if you're hitting the same financial target year after year, it's likely because you have a program, right, of your belief system, of your habits, all those things that are causing that result. So let's watch this little video.
There's this governor on our lives, and it is a governor, and it's your identity. It's this internal, it's what you think you're worth. It's what you think you deserve. And the problem for good people, see, we all know someone right now in our life, or we have, who's not ethical, who's not a good person, who's winning. And you're like, I can't believe they're getting it, right? Why can't I? I'm a good person. I treat people well. I'm honest. Here's the reason why. By the way, the unethical person, eventually karma, you reap what you sow, comes home to roost. But if you're a good person, this is so important people understand this, because it took me a long time. A good person in any endeavor will only take from it what they think they deserve, what they think they're worth. In other words, if there was a pizza here, you're a good person. You don't take all 12 pieces.
Right.
A good person thinks there should be an equitable distribution.
I'm a little bigger, so I might take 7 or 8. You know,
and I would arm wrestle you for it.
You would beat me.
I don't know about that. You're a moose, but long story short, what is that a good person will not take more from the table of life than they think they're worth or they think they deserve. And so you have this governor on your identity. So what happens is it's like a thermostat. Our lives get going. We start doing really well. If we're a 75 degreer and our life gets to 85 and 90 degrees, unconsciously we go, we don't know we're doing it. We start to cool life back down to get it back to where we're comfortable. The reverse is also true. When things start to go really bad and you're broke and you're struggling, you find a way to heat your life back up to what you think you're worth and you deserve. So the way we alter our life is, sure, we got to alter our behavior and our relationships and our circumstances, but the only way it's permanent is that we alter that governor, that thermostat, and we start to believe we're worth 85 degrees of life, 95 degrees of life, 110 degrees of life. And there's ways we can alter that.
How do we alter it?
A couple different ways. One is what you just said, is that you put yourself in circumstances that are demanding of you past what you think your capacity is. And when you succeed at them, you build a new water line. You do. You throw yourself out there past where you're comfortable, and you do an 85 degrees behavior and you knock it out of the park, and you go, oh, your brain starts to believe it. Repetitiously, when you start doing that, you build a new line. Now you're 85 degrees. That's number one. The second way, though, is association. If you're around people and whatever that endeavor is, if it's a sport you're in, or if it's a business, or your faith, or your peace, if you begin to associate with people who live in that space at a higher temperature than you, through association, you get heated up.
Yeah.
And so if you're an athlete, for example, you're a 70-degree athlete, and you start training all the time with 85 and 90 degrees, your identity through osmosis goes up. If you're a person who's trying to improve their faith in their life or their personal peace about them, you all know this. You've seen it. When you start to hang around people that are a little bit more peaceful than you, or meditate a little bit more, through that association, over time, the thermostat changes in that area. And so it's both behaving in a certain way, and then your associations
Yeah,
usually change.
I believe that.
Why are you at KW?
I'll answer if no one's going to.
Kemen?
For me, it had largely to do with the culture. I came and was just shocked about how many good things people were sharing. Whereas my previous brokerage, they wanted to hide it, felt like we were all competing. Whereas here, it feels like we're all collaborating. And big on, I don't know, just increasing my education and trying to learn new things. And so I don't know of a better company that has better training and education along the way
Yeah,
either. So that and the culture.
yeah, I appreciate that. So ultimately, like that's the exact reason why I landed at KW as well, is I realized the culture, going back to this idea, there's two things that he pointed out. One is activity. We just have to take massive action and hit accomplishments that cause us to reimagine what we're actually worth. Right? We set this new baseline from our prior results. Like there's some of you in this room who have consistently been well over 100,000 and you can never imagine yourself earning 75,000 again. Your brain is so locked into, I'm always going to earn at least 300,000 or whatever the target is, right? But the second piece of that though, is when we're starting out early on, it's all about the people that we're surrounding ourselves with, right? Has a massive impact. So part of this process that I just want you to think through is that number that you just wrote down. If it is a lot bigger than you've had in the past target wise, the goal is we have to raise the thermostat, right? We have to raise that thermostat of what we think is possible to achieve that goal. So we're going to get into the 4 fundamental models. These are in the MREA, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. And this essentially becomes your guide for the year ahead. As I mentioned, we're going to change up the process slightly with how we set some of these, and one being the economic model. And so this is saying, well, if I have a target, if my goal is 98,833, what do I have to do? How many homes do I actually have to sell to achieve that target, right? So we actually are just reverse engineering the math behind our goal. So if you jump on that Notion page, and up here in the top left-hand corner, just so you know, you can hit this little back button or just back on your computer, and you'll go back to this main home screen. So on here, you're going to look for what's called the economic model. It's the top left-hand corner. And you can either click on, not the image, but click on this little gray link that says the calculator. For you, it will likely force you to log in. So just use Gmail is the easiest to get you logged in quickly. And with these, you can save these plans. So the nice thing is you'll be able to hit save plan and you can come back and change it or just create an all together new plan. But it'll be helpful for you to be able to come back to this, let's say next year, and say, okay, what was my target? Did I hit that? Okay. You can, this one is optimized as well for mobile. So if you want to do this on your phone, you can. I'll go back to this QR code so you can get access to it. So just scan this. And then when the page opens up, it should be the top one, is the economic model. Katie, the first one that pops up. Okay. So go ahead and click on that. And I'm going to just walk you through how it works. So it's not the picture. It's right above the picture. It's this right here. It actually is like a hyperlink of words. Is that not showing up for y'all?
Mine was right
This?
below it, like right below that picture.
Okay, maybe it's below the picture. On one above and one below. Cool. That work for everybody? Trying to get access? Cool. So who wants to throw out their number from their Life by Design for me? So we can do this with a real number. Give me a target. Okay, Jordana.
The grand total of the drive,
Yep.
184,093. $184,093.
Okay, let me see if I can zoom in on these. Okay, so you're going to put your financial goal in this net income goal target. And it was somewhere around there. Okay. So just by putting that number in, you're going to start seeing things adjust on this calculator, where one, it's going to say, well, you actually need 231,000 as your net income goal. Right? Because what was not on that initial calculator was taxes, right? And if you want right here, you can change the tax bracket. So if you do cost seg or you do some strategies to lower your taxable income, then you can go ahead and tweak that here. So if you said, well, I am like 9% or 8%, that will also adjust the math for you real time. So what we're going to do, Jordana, is go through this. And just so you know, this calculator is not perfect. If you put numbers in and it has a 0 before it, you can just leave it and keep going. It doesn't affect the math. It's just a programming issue. But what we're going to do is now say, okay, Jordana and Jared, do you know roughly what your average sales price is from this year? Ballpark.
Yeah, it's 555,
565? And then would you say, what was your average compensation percentage? 3? Across all your transactions, you never had a 2.4? Okay, 2.75. Now we're going to look at next year and say, how many months do you want to work in the year ahead? And you can do 0.5s, 11? Okay. So you're going to take 1 month off, vacation, travel, and then what is your makeup roughly of buyers and sellers this year? 60% listings? Cool. This is right? 40% listings, 60% buyers? Okay. Oh. Thank you. And then on the step 3, what you're going to calculate is your cost of sale. And then you're down below that, you're also going to put in your operating expenses. Now, the difference between these numbers, what is the difference, Novalee, between a cost of sale and an expense?
Sales like your specific transaction, so if that transaction fell through, there would be no cost.
Okay. So like a closing gift would be a cost of sale. If you don't close the deal, you're probably not going to get a gift. Okay.
Take photos, whether they go.
Photos, you're paying for it, right? Your Facebook ads that you're running, you're paying for it. You don't get that money back if you don't close. So that's the difference with cost of sale. You want to have 2 different categories when you're doing this. You have cost of sales, one section. For example, the cap that you pay to the brokerage, right, is a cost of sell. You only pay a cap if you are closing transactions, right? So on here, you're going to put in whatever your per transaction cost is. So closing gift, transaction coordinator, if you have one, your E&O insurance. So go ahead and enter those numbers. How much you want to contribute to Cater You Cares, which is our charity that takes care of agents and family members in our office that go through hardships. E&O insurance. And then you want to go ahead and add in your operating expenses. Now, for sake of time, hopefully you're kind of working through this right now while we're doing this, plugging some numbers in. But Jordana and Jared, I'm going to just put some fictitious numbers on here for you guys, just so we can speed this up. So lead generation, I'm going to say 1,000 a month. That's your client events. That's your, some of your marketing budget to attract new clients, stuff like that. Compensation, do you guys have anybody that you've hired, VA or anything, or personal admin? Okay. Okay, so how much are you going to pay them, roughly? I'm going to throw in a number, 15,000. 15,000 for the year. Education and coaching. Okay, $1,000 a month, so 12 grand. And then tech, this is like your AI, your CRM, like any kind of budget you have towards technology in your business, and then your other expenses, right? So with this, after you enter those numbers, you can, if you want to get a little crazy, you can do this advanced and go do like your conversion rates. You can add in your lead generation methods, how many people you have in your database, all of those things. But for now, I'm going to just hit generate this report, and it's going to spit out for you this dashboard that you can then screenshot. This will become the target for the year, right? So top line, your goal should be 264,000 in order to hit the 100 was it 183-ish? 193. So in order to net 193,000 in your pocket, you have to count in taxes, business expenses, cost of sale, all of those different pieces. Does that make sense? So it's adding it to your goal. If we scroll back to the top, you can also just see this simple breakdown where it will show you need 17 closings. 7 are going to come from listings, 10 from buyers. It's also going to tell you how many you need per month. So this is now the math of what we're going to focus on. All we don't need to think about 270,000. That's a pretty big elephant to eat, right? But if we just say, hey, Jared, if you can find one listing by Saturday, you have what, 4 days? I will pay you 275,000. I'll bring it cash to our team meeting next Tuesday. How confident are you that you're going to get a listing agreement signed by Saturday? Is there anything that's going to stop me from getting it? Interesting. See, we'll do whatever it takes, right? The funny thing is, most people, we look at the annual goal and we see this mountain to climb rather than just looking at the one step in front of us. So that's what the economic model does, is it chunks it down and just says, all you have to focus on is 1 listing per month and 2 buyers per month. That's it, which almost 1 client a week, right? Does that make sense? So it'll do the math for you. And then up here in the top right-hand side, you can hit download this PDF. And it will actually put this together in a little visual printout for you. Okay. Helpful? Awesome. So again, for time, we're going to kind of speed through these, but you just want to plug in your existing goal for the year and then tweak some of the math as far as what your expenses are going to be, your taxes, and it's going to find your true target that you're going to aim for. Okay. Any questions on this process? Okay. And then if you're on mobile, it should give you kind of a screenshot optimized. You can just screenshot the numbers at the bottom and it'll show you based off your income goal, here's the numbers you got to hit. Okay. What we're going to do is just take 3 minutes. Raise your hand if you got your numbers. Okay. So what we're going to do is just take 3 minutes really quick. Go and enter those numbers on either your phone or your calculator or your computer to get your exact numbers. And either save the plan or just hit print to your phone or screenshot it. One of those two. So we're going to throw some music on. Go ahead and get that number, because this is one of the most important things you can have, is knowing exactly what targets you have to hit or what price you have to pay, in other terms. This will be the next exercise. Yeah, that's right. Thank you. All right, 30 seconds. And again, if you're not completely finished, just hit save. You can come back to it and continue editing it at any time. Okay, so this next sheet that we're passing out is for the next model in the MREA, which is the lead generation model. And this is where we want to be, as you go through that book, it talks about how we want to be prospecting based and marketing enhanced. Prospecting based and marketing enhanced. It actually used to be reversed in the book. It still is this way. It says marketing based, prospecting enhanced, but the world's changed over the last 20 years, right? We have to be far more on the hunt, the offensive, rather than the reactive mode. And the difference between the two is prospecting is far more activity based, right? It's something that you can do to force an outcome. Whereas marketing is you're putting stuff out there and hoping that somebody reaches out, right? It's far more reactive. So part of this game plan for you over the next year is just simply doing an audit, which you have these two sheets being passed out right now. One is called your 20 or your 36 touch plan audit. This would be just a good thing to go through probably like on a Saturday or maybe later today of just asking yourself how well you did in 2025 with your 36 touch. Or your value delivery system is another way we can call it, right? What is the easiest way to earn business in our space? What's the easiest path? Referrals?
Repeat.
Repeat referrals, like is those two ingredients, right? So we have to ask the question, well, what causes those? They can happen by accident, for sure. I'm sure some of you have received a referral from somebody you haven't talked to in a while, right? And then also just repeat clients or sphere of influence where they reach out and say, hey, I need help with XYZ. Can you help me, right? So the way to intentionally cause those to happen is doing a better job at providing value to our sphere of influence. And part of this is getting clear about how we want to, let me kind of give you this perspective or this analogy of relationship banking. And I say this over and over again because it's so important, where if I were to, let's say I don't have an account with Chase Bank and I go there right now and I walk in and I'm going to go to the teller, even though I don't have an account with them, and I want to ask for $100,000 in cash. How likely are they to give me that money in the next 2 minutes? Pretty much zero, right? Because they're going to have two different questions they're going to ask. One is explicit and direct. They're going to say, awesome, welcome, sir. Do you have an account with us? Or they ask it in another way and they say, can I see your ID? Same thing. They're looking at, does this person have an account with me? But the second question that they ask is, do they have enough money to merit the amount of withdrawal that they're asking for? You with me so far? So if I only have $73 in that account and I'm asking for 100 grand, what are they thinking in their mind?
Crazy.
This person's crazy or he's about to rob us, right? Yet, unfortunately, real estate agents do that all the time with their sphere or their database. They'll call people who they haven't talked to for quite some time and they say, hey, I'm in real estate now, or hey, just seeing if you need to buy, sell, or invest, or if you know anybody who's making a move. And if you have not talked with them for 5 years, you do not have an account open with them anymore. It's been closed, right? Or we've underfunded the account. We've only put $10 worth of deposits in there and we're now asking for a $13,000 commission check. You can see how the math doesn't really compute, right? And that's where we feel this kind of ickiness in the process is if we're not consistently providing value to people, we don't feel like we can go ahead and benefit from that relationship from a financial standpoint. So what we want to do is be more purposeful in 26 around making valuable deposits into those relationships. So that's what this sheet does. For sake of time, you're not going to have to go fill this all out because we've already done it on one side. On the back side, you have a fresh blank slate, okay? So what you could do if you wanted to is just take the game plan we already put together and run with it. This is a valuable 36 touch plan already mapped out by month. So you can say, I already know exactly the 3 things I'm doing in January to make deposits into people's accounts, right? The only question is, how many people do I want to do this for? And that's where it comes down to the quality of your system. If you're using a CRM, you're using Command, you're using these resources, you can actually do that value touch system to more people more often. Okay. So what my encouragement is this week, if everybody could pull out their phone really quick, or if you're on your computer, pull up your Google Calendar. And I see Sam's already there. Just find some blank time this week and put a 90-minute slot on your calendar and call it business planning. Today, there's no chance that you're going to walk out with an entire complete plan. You have to just spend about 90 minutes, and with all the tools that we're giving you today, you'll be able to have a solid and really robust game plan going into the new year. But you've got to spend some time on it. If you don't put it on your calendar right now, what's going to happen is life is going to happen. Right? And so all these things are going to bump into your time this week, and you're just never going to get around to it. So put it on your calendar at some slot to go through and make your 36 touch plan solid. Again, you can use this plan that we've already created, or you can use the backside to customize your own. Okay. So let me just walk through how this sheet works. First, you're deciding what your consistent touches are. When you actually have a system in place, again, as Angie pointed out earlier, it actually provides some peace of mind, some freedom, but it also is easier to execute every month. So if you get clear on what your staple touch points are that don't change, it's a lot easier to deploy those with the system. So for example, if you're sending a market update email, how many of you use the market update email that we provide for you every month? All right, great. Thanks, Kimber.
I guess we got.
Yeah. Kimber puts together, you can find it in Command, just go to Smart Plans. We'll put this on the Notion board for just steps on how to access this. But every month she'll put together the stats for you that you can literally just hit send. You literally just decide who you want it to send to. But it will show you Utah County stats, Salt Lake County stats, and then the state as a whole, market stats. And then give a little synopsis around what's happening in the economy. So, and it's all branded to you already. So it will put in your headshot, your contact information so that it's ready to send to your clients right away. But if you just say, well, that's a 10-minute process per month, I can get those touches 10 minutes a month. That's the commitment. And I've already got one touch systematized, right? That's automatic. Touch 2, that's where you're probably going to fluctuate based off of the time of the year, right? You're going to switch it up every month or every quarter and have a different type of touch point. So maybe you're doing a home valuation for everybody in your top 100 or top 200 for month 1. And then you're doing a first-time buyer webinar or seminar in person to help people who are on that journey. And then in your month 3, March, you're going to do a social media engagement. You're focused on social media. So you're kind of having different touch strategies that you're deploying. And then touch 3, what's the one that we always avoid? Phone calls, right? Which like actually has the biggest impact on relationships. It's just calling and checking in, seeing how people are doing, right? One way to help with that is strategically do it around your client events, right? So if you're doing client events, it's very easy to call and say, hey, do you want to come to the water park? I'd love for your family to come have some fun on me. It's a lot easier a phone call to make, right? So just plan out that strategically where you're doing your calls around their birthday, around holidays, and around client events. Makes it a lot easier. And then lastly, if you really want to be strategic, it's creating MOFRs. MOFR stands for Make Offers for Immediate Response. This is basically the marketing side. These are all prospecting for the most part. This is going to be very marketing heavy, right? So this is where you might send an additional email of value each month, or you might post stuff on social media, or whatever case might be, but you're creating a game plan for revolving MOFRs that you can use, okay? Why would this be valuable to create for 1 year? Like, what would it do for future years? Jordana.
You're building for your real thing. You're building It'll take a long time to do your building squats.
Yep. Yeah. You're benefiting from the compounding effect of that relationship, right? Like you're investing into it over time and you get paid back with interest over time, right? That's number one. Number two is what happens when you have a system that's defined. You can repeat it. So if you just take the time to do it now and document your systems, you can say, I can run the same exact playbook next year with just some small tweaks. But it makes it so much easier that second time around to deploy your system because it's built. Does that make sense? So your future self will benefit from you taking time to get clarity around this right now. My recommendation is just to plan out at least quarter one. So just say, at least for the first 3 months, what am I going to do? In that Notion board, you have a fresh template. So you can write on this one and you can download the other copy anytime. The rule of core 4 is important for the lead generation model. And this is when they studied top producers, they found that 82% of their business came from the top four core sources or less. So they might have had business from like 8 or 9 different avenues, but when you dug into the numbers, most of their business came from the top 4 sources. So on that original calculator that we did, you can actually label what are your 4 sources going to be for next year. But that's one thing you want to get clear around as well, is say, well, where's most of my business come from this year? Let me double down on that source. Jordana and Jared and I were talking about, like, how do we set goals for next year? Part of the process is asking, like, we normally as entrepreneurs gravitate towards like what's new, what's different, or what's the shiny object. If we actually just say, let me do more, better, like more of the stuff I'm already doing, and just do it better, we don't have to change much. Right? So that's where if you get clear about those core 4, you can just say, can I improve them? Can I do them better? If I'm doing client events and that's where most of my business is coming from, what can I do to tweak it and elevate the client event experience? Or if most of my business is coming from sphere of influence, how do I lean into that more? How do I do it better? So that's what I'd recommend, is before looking for new lead generation sources, just do the ones you're currently doing, but do them better. So we'll send out this sheet, but there's a nice sheet that just shows what the 36 touch point could look like for impact. I'm going to jump through a few of these to get to the next model. Okay, so budget model. How many of you have a budget in your business? How many of you have a budget in your personal life? How many of you just spend whatever you need on your credit card and then just figure out a way to pay it off? Right? So the budget model is saying there's actually some math behind your business numbers, and it really depends on your income target. So this is another document. It's a little spreadsheet that's on the Notion board. I think it's the one in the bottom right corner, and it's just called, or it's actually on the economic model. So there's 2 different sheets on there. This is one of those where it will tell you, based off of your total sales volume and GCI target or goal, how much you should be spending in different categories. I know it's a little bit small for those in the back, but for example, you should be spending 12% roughly on administrative or salaries, right? But based off of your income target. So once you get a certain level of scale, you need to say, well, who do I need to bring into my world, right, to buy back my time or build some more leverage in my business? 10% to marketing, 5% to training and education, 2% to equipment and supplies, 0.5% to rent, and then miscellaneous is 0.5% as well. But all of those, you can reverse engineer them. And when you're a solo agent just starting out, you can run your business pretty dang lean. So you typically are not spending the 30%, but that's the actual model with Keller Williams, is that you want to be at roughly under 30% in expenses and less than 30% in your cost of sales as well. Okay. So go play with that spreadsheet, because it'll just give you the target of like, hey, here's how much I should be spending based off of my current income goals and targets. I am going to share a tool with that. We'll circle back to the budget model in a moment of just like, how do you make sure that you are actually also like very easily tracking this? Anything that's complex, we don't do often, right? Or consistently. And so we'll give you some tools that can be very helpful with that front. Number 4 is the leverage model. This idea of do what you do best and then enlist leverage to help you with the rest. And leverage comes in different shapes and forms. So that could be tools, that could be systems, and then that can be team members as well. And for sake of time, I'm just going to show you 3 different kind of buckets or categories that you might be in, so you can decide what kind of leverage you might need in 2026. Let me jump through. Level 1. So this is where we want to focus on personal productivity, right? So on the left hand, you'll see, and we'll send these slides out so you can have access to them, but areas of mastery, lead generation and conversion. How well am I doing in that category? Buyers and seller presentations, your showing and marketing properties, contract writing and negotiations, transaction coordination, financial management, mindset and vision. These are all things that are the least likely that you're going to delegate, right? When you're starting out, you need to own those different areas of your business, and you need to focus on mastery. How do I get really good at those different areas of my business? And with that, you want to enlist tools. You want to say, well, what tools can help me do these things better, right? Or more consistently. So obviously using, KDB Command, ChatGPT, Perplexity AI, things like Notion, Loom, Cloud CMA, email template systems. Within that Notion board, what we gave you, if you go to productivity, nope, not productivity stack. It was, I don't think we put it in there. So we will add this in there, but there is a client success system.
I think that is the
Is it?
right all the way at the bottom. The client.
Maybe it's needs to be refreshed. Let's see. Oh yeah, perfect. So even this is just an example of like auditing your business, how you do things, and how can you just bring a system into it. So how many of you have your emails for your client experience documented? Google Docs, Evernote, Gmail templates, something like that. Like 5 of you, okay? So like this is one of the easiest ways where it's like you're going to send an email anyways when they go under contract or when they are approaching their closing timeline. Why not just document your emails? So if a client goes under contract, you just open up, you're under contract, what's next, and you just change their names and change what their earnest money is. Like you make it very easy to find those resources so that you can just have a consistent system for every client. Every client gets the same experience, right?
I even save like notes on my phone, just like send the text about the different documents that they're gonna be sending.
Yeah. So you just have it in your notes app on your phone.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Yeah, whatever system's going to be the easiest for you to consistently repeat, right? So tools and systems are key. This should be level 2, which is your first hire. And this is where you have to, once you get to a point where you say like, I am spending more hours than I want in my business, I'm earning good income, but I want more time back. Or I'm at a point where I want to have a financial breakthrough. I want to have a higher income next year than I did this year. Typically, it comes down to leverage, support, right? So we have to start asking the question of what do you do best, right? With the negotiations, with the consulting appointments, the listing consultation, the buyer consultation, and then how do I how do I bring somebody in to help me with some of these other areas, like maybe marketing, right? Or being consistent with my 36 touch system, right? And so that's where the conversation comes in of like, you might need to find a who in your world for 2026. All of you are in different stages of your life and your business. So you might have to ask, Do I need another hire or another person to come in and help me to grow my business next year? And I've jumped a few different levels on this, but in MREA, what you'll find is there's a path to what's called the 7th level team, or MREA, Millionaire Real Estate Agent Team. And this is where you have a true system and people that are supporting you, right? But you also have opportunities you're creating for other people, which is the cool thing with teams, is being able to provide a big enough world where other people can win inside of it. And so my recommendation with the org chart model is to ask yourself, if you actually go through the MREA, it shows all 7 levels. Ask yourself 12 months from now, what level do I want to be at? Do I want it to just be me, or do I want it to be me and an admin, right? Some back-end support that's helping me to crush my goals. Or do I really want to scale and grow and add a buyer's agent, listing specialist for additional seats? Okay. We're going to jump to this last document, and then we'll jump into lunch. I know we had to rush a little bit through some of this today, but part of this process is just sitting down and going through and getting clear about your number, what's the target, and then 2, how am I going to get there? Right? Those 2 things. And with the how, do all of you have this sheet in front of you? Do we need to pass this one around? You do have it. Perfect. Does anybody need this sheet? It's called your 411 action goal worksheet. Okay, perfect. There you go. Thanks. Yeah. Oh, you got it. Yep. Perfect. So this comes down to like the nitty-gritty of just like, how do I achieve more? And this is what I found to be the simplest system that you can deploy. Let me see if we put it in here. Okay. This one will be added to the sheet as well, because this is a document that you can print out once per month. And the way that it functions is helping you with these specific focuses. One, what is the result that I'm trying to attain? So at the top of the sheet, the way that you have the one that's broken down for you in front of you is it goes through 4 different categories of life. So you've got your personal life, your relationships, your business, and your personal finance. We have another template. We'll add both of them here where it's just for business. So if you want to do this process just for your business goals, you don't want to see those other categories, it's totally fine. So we'll add both of those versions on there. But when you say, well, what do I want for the year in my business? And then you just ask the question, well, if that were the reality next year, what do I have to do this month, just 1 month, to make this happen? This becomes a kind of a guiding resource where every month you're able to just check in with this document. You print a new one off and you say, okay, here's the goal. I fell a little bit behind next month. How do I get back on track this month? And then lastly, ultimately, is the weekly planning sessions, where you're sitting to get down each week and saying, am I on track with the goals that I set for the year, right? And so you're able to chunk down into weekly bite-sized chunks. The weeks you just do one at a time. So you just have a 10-minute weekly planning process, which was on the previous slide. You sit down on a Sunday and say, okay, what do I need to do this week to stay on track with my monthly goal? So much easier to make tweaks, right? If you fall behind and say, I need to get back on track on a weekly basis than if you wait 6 months and find out that you're not on track, right? So that system helps. And one of the documents, unfortunately, we didn't get this printed in time, but you have a GPS. How many of you have gone through this process before and built a GPS business plan? Okay. How many of you have no clue what a business plan is or should look like? All right. And the reason why I ask that is because most of us, like, they don't teach this in high school. Only if you went and got a degree in business do you actually know what it might look like to build a successful business plan. And yet it can be one of the guiding sources for your goals. And it's under the goal setting to the now. You're going to find this document. And you can simply make a copy. So this is how all of these documents really kind of run in unison to build your, let's call it your achievement system. When you have your financial goal from the Life by Design, it then informs your economic model, right? Your economic model ties into what your plan should be. Because you're going to say, well, if I'm going to earn X amount this year, how many families do I need to serve? And at what average sales price? All of that is what you're pulling from the economic model. Does that make sense? The next step, though, is saying, well, what's the 3 things that I can do, the levers I can pull that would cause the result? So with Keller Williams, they call it the GPS system, or a 1-3-5. 1 clear goal, that's up here at the top, 3 priorities, and then for every priority, you're going to have a supporting strategy. So what are the strategies that are 3 to 7 different strategies that are going to help me to hit that massive priority? For example, if my goal was to deepen engagement with my sphere of influence and close 19 transactions in the process, I'm going to first build out my 36 touch plan. I'm then going to daily SOI connection goal. So you're going to put an actual number here. Might be 10 connections a day or 8 connections a day. I'm going to host 2 client events, appreciation events, and invite my top 50 or top 100. I'm going to host 2 to 4 seminars. So you're basically just building out the game plan for the year with this document. And this is the one document that you can reference every single week, right? Or every month when you're looking at your targets. Okay. So this doesn't change. Your 411 does change. So this sheet that we just went through changes every week, right? Because maybe you went on vacation one week, so the next week you got to do double, or maybe you got sick, so you've got to adjust every single week, whereas your targets and the overall strategies don't change. Does that make sense? Okay. So all of these are simply templates that you can go ahead and just duplicate, copy, make them your own. This one you can just overwrite and adjust the strategies that you're going to deploy to get to your goal. And you'll end up with one sheet, which you have this, yes, it is. Thank you. If you want to make it as simple as possible, you're like, hey, we went through a lot today, right? Because all of you are in different stages of your business. This is the one sheet that you want to make it as easy as possible. You say, I just want one of these things to take home and be able to have as a more intelligent strategy system for 2026. It's this one that says my 2026 GCI target. Okay. Because what you're going to do is put your total goal on there. And if you don't have it, raise your hand. We'll make sure this sheet is passed around. This is what it looks like. And basically, it just has the most important stuff on one sheet for you, where you say, what's the goal? How many families am I going to serve to hit that goal? How many appointments does that turn into per month, which comes from that economics calculator that we did? Okay, so it already does the math for you. What 4 lead generation methods am I going to deploy or focus on? And then this is from your GPS. So what's the top 3 priorities? Sphere of influence. Is it going to be, client events? What are you going to do focus-wise? And then my core tools for leverage. So what tools am I going to really lean into for 2026? A tool would be like, how many of you are using a spreadsheet to manage your database right now? Raise your hand. I always sit with a few of you and like, yeah, I got it on the spreadsheet, right? So maybe a CRM might be an upgrade next year, right? Or maybe you are using a CRM, but you're like, I have it, I have access to it, but like I'm not actually using it, right? So that would be an example. Another tool would be like, how are you using AI in today's world, right? Are you using that to your fullest ability to actually get the results that you want? So tools would be a lot of just technology things that can help provide leverage in your business. So writing those things down of like, these are what I'm going to be more intentional around using next year. And then I would document your weekly planning ritual. So just say, hey, here's the 3 things I'm going to do each week. I'm going to look at my GPS. I'm going to plan out my 411 and then put everything on my calendar, right? Time block things on my calendar. We had about 30 minutes less than we were supposed to. So we had to expedite things and cut out a few of the activities. But what I want to do is just get some clarity before we break to lunch. What were some things that were ahas or that you captured today that was helpful, or tools that you feel like would be helpful for you to lean into? Spencer.
So one tool on there that can cover, but there's no more about it.
Origin. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
But I can another time.
Yeah. Once people break for lunch, I'll show those a few tools that I put on there that are helpful for you.
I think the biggest thing is just like that temperature gauge thing. So I've really felt that personally this year, where it's like I've realized like I have this mentality of I was within of 78,000 and I can survive on that. And then this year I think I was just actually blessed, but broke that like 150, and then so I felt like, oh, there's possibilities here. And so kind of like this idea of like, if I am that thing, like identify with that, then I can do those things that align with my identity better.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're such an important part of like life to be in. And some of you are in this room are in the same boat where once you break that target, so you've doubled almost your income target, like how do you make sure you don't go back, right? And part of that is asking yourself of like, well, what will I implement habit-wise? What will I change or adapt or do consistently that I did this year that worked, right? Awesome. Thanks, Spencer. Angie.
Good people won't take more than they believe. So good people won't take more than they believe they deserve. And being able to like visualize and see that and go like, oh, that's enough. I'm good. That's enough.
Yeah.
It was impactful to visualize that. I feel like that's probably a place where a lot of us sit, actually.
Yeah. Absolutely. Get one more. Amy.
I really liked the beginning, how we really talked about what do we want in life? What do we need in life? Instead of just picking a number like, oh, I want this GCI. And it makes me really reflective what my life goals are, what my needs are. And I just want to spend a little more time on that and that background and all of those spreadsheets that you created. That was really helpful instead of just randomly picking a number. It makes me want to be more intentional and thinking about my goals and what I need versus what I want.
Love it. Awesome. Thank you. My one encouragement, spend that 90 minutes to just go back into this Notion page. There's, basically 6 different categories you can dive into, and just, you'll know like what the 2 or 3 that you need to focus on are. So just say, okay, what are the 2 or 3 that's gonna be very helpful? We'll go through this in just a minute. For those, feel free to grab lunch, and then I'll stick around for 10 minutes and just share some of the tools that are on here. But my recommendation is, or my invitation is like, look at 2026 as being the potential to have to be the best year yet that you've had in your business, regardless of what's happening in the market, regardless of what's happening in the economy. It's all an internal game. There's some agents in our office that have doubled their business this year in what some people would call a very challenging year. And so just realize that it is this process, being very intentional about how you walk through building your business. That's important. And we're here to support you. So we wish you the best in 26. Okay. Thanks all. Have a great day.